Istanbul, more than 15 million inhabitants. It's the largest city in Turkey, the economical and commercial center, but also the cultural capital at the crossroads of East and West. Among the jewels of the city, St. Sophia, the Byzantine basilica which became a mosque, and the Blue Mosque with its 6 minarets, famous throughout the world. And on the southern bank of the Golden Horn, a lesser-known monument, the majestic Süleymaniye, symbol of the Ottoman Golden Age. The day rises. The city wakes slowly, with its share of little morning rituals. Built in the 16th century by the famous Süleyman the Magnificent, the Süleymaniye allowed the Sultan to establish his power. Massive and imposing, its sobriety is nonetheless surprising. A place of prayer, but also a monument of Turkish heritage, it occupies a special place in the hearts of the thousands of Istanbulites who regularly visit it. Friday, a special day for Muslims from all over the world. The day of rest, the day dedicated to their faith. Here at Süleymaniye, this first prayer is a privileged moment. It is 5 a.m., and only a handful of the faithful have entered the mosque grounds. Salah, the prayer, is one of the 5 pillars of Islam that every Muslim must respect, with the profession of faith, the pilgrimage to Mecca, alms to the poor, and Ramadan, the month of fasting. This prayer must be performed 5 times a day in the direction of Mecca. When Suleiman came to power, the Ottoman Empire was immense. It stretched from Egypt to the Balkans via Iran and Iraq. Like the other sultans since the conquest of Constantinople, Suleiman wanted to build his own mosque. And the model to follow, but also to surpass, was St. Sophia, Hagia Sophia, built by the Byzantines 10 centuries ago. To demonstrate his power, this mosque must be even bigger, even more beautiful. In 1550, Suleiman entrusted the work to the great architect Mimar Sinan. In only 7 years, the building arose. This feat of speed was possible thanks to the recruitment of qualified workers from all over the empire and to unlimited means granted by the Sultan. This great mosque was the center of a vast complex of 70 hectares called the Kulliye. All around the gardens, a mausoleum, and under the countless small domes, a Quranic school, theology schools, a hospital, a bazaar, a hammam. It was a real city within a city. And the choice of location was not left to chance. The Süleymaniye was erected at the top of a hill overlooking the Bosphorus. Remarkable dimensions, but also a concern for solidity and harmony. Sinan, the architect, selected rare materials. Frédéric is an historian at the CNRS and a specialist of the Ottoman Empire.
As soon as you enter the courtyard of the Süleymaniye Mosque, you are impressed by the size of the courtyard, dominated by 28 domes, which are themselves supported by 24 columns made of grey marble, also pink granite, and also porphyry. Porphyry, a very hard stone about which the Ottomans asked many questions because they did not know how to work porphyry. And so there was a magic dimension in those porphyry columns. It was thought in legends that this porphyry had been made by giants on a mountain, who used to create moulds in which they made water run, and put plants which coloured the stone. And indeed, when we look at this porphyry, we see these veins and its reflections of very different colours. In any case, what is certain is that it is an exceptional space for the glory of Islam, and that is what the Sultan wanted. The first time I visited the Süleymaniye, I was surprised by, of course, these dimensions, but especially by this light that penetrates through dozens and dozens of windows. If I remember, there are 138. And then these stained glass windows, which are made from glass that comes from Murano, for the most part, because Venetian glass was very appreciated by the Ottoman court, and therefore most 16th century mosques were built with Murano glass to light the spaces. A glass that is very expensive. Blue was expensive, but red even more so. The particularity of the Süleymaniye Mosque is that the architecture is underlined. Because of the desire of the architect Sinan, who played with paint, who played with the colour of the stone. We see that the marble used is sometimes red, sometimes white. There are different varieties of stones, and all this is voluntary. The colour, and especially by accentuating the white. The background finally remains very white and very clear and very pure, accentuating even more this architecture.
It is noon, approaching the time of the Great Friday prayer. At the time of the Ottoman Empire, the call to prayer of the muezzins was launched from the top of the minarets. The Süleymaniye has 4. They indicate that Süleyman is the 4th sultan since the city became the capital of the empire. With a particularly tapered shape, these minarets are representative of Ottoman art. Geometric shapes such as swarms of bees, stalactites of stone. The balconies were carved by artists from all over the empire. Today, the call to prayer is heard throughout powerful loudspeakers that resonate throughout the city. A lot of comings and goings on the Bosphorus. On the Asian shore, as on the European shore, people hurry to arrive on time. On other days of the week, prayer can take place at home or at work, but on Fridays, Muslims go to the mosque. The midday prayer is the one that gathers the most people. Everyone then ceases their activities for this great weekly ritual. Abdurrahman Tavruz often visits the Süleymaniye.
Önce bir avluya girersiniz, yetmez. Sonra bir de iç avluya.
When you arrive at the mosque, you must leave the worldliness at the door.
Camiye ulaşırsınız. Yani birçok
For that,
dünyayı
there is the ritual of ablution.
ilk önce bertaraf olmak, onlardan arınmak suretiyle buraya ulaşabiliriz.
We don't wash ourselves because we're dirty, but to clean ourselves spiritually, symbolically.
Ama bunu yaptıktan sonra yine yaparsa bu
For example, if we've spoken badly to someone, we have the opportunity here to correct our mistakes by cleaning our mouth 3 times.
söz dinlediyse, dedikodu, gıybet dinlediyse, kötü meclislerde
And in the same way, if we hear gossip or slander and our ears are polluted, we wash our ears.
kirlendiyse onu adeta tövbesini yapar gibi kulağını yıkar.
After the compulsory purification, you must remove your shoes before entering to respect the purity of the place. This Great Friday prayer transcends social and generational barriers. The men gather in the main room, and the women pray in a space dedicated to them out of sight. The mosque is a place specifically dedicated to prayer. No weddings, processions, or other ceremonies, only prayer and reading of the Quran. Every Friday, the imam also delivers a sermon on a theme of his choice or in connection with current events. After this Great Friday prayer, where time seems nearly suspended, the Istanbulites go back to their occupations. And for some, it's time for a family lunch in the restaurants near the mosque. Grilled mutton meat, stuffed or simmered vegetables, white rice, all the traditional Turkish dishes are served there. In the early afternoon, Istanbulites and foreign visitors stroll through the gardens within the Kulliye, the complex around the mosque, and in the cemetery where prominent people and their families rest. Reformer, poet, and patron of the greatest artists of his time, the conquering sultan's mausoleum stands in the middle of these slabs. Suleiman's reign lasted 46 years, the longest in the Ottoman Empire. Visitors flock to the mausoleum to admire the architecture and elegant interior decorations. A dome encrusted with precious stones, like stars glittering in the sky, and walls covered with beautiful ceramic panels. It is also a place of devotion where one can meditate. Prayers are always whispered with great modesty. Omar, who often visits the Süleymaniye, regularly passes by the imperial tomb.
I come here to pray at the tomb because the Ottomans are our ancestors. Süleyman is a bit like our father. I feel serene when I come here. The atmosphere here is really full of emotions. I consider it a duty to His Excellence, to what he has accomplished. I feel good when I'm around him.
O şekilde.
As for the tomb of Sinan, the greatest of the Ottoman architects, it is more modest and located in an alley along the mosque. But it is also a public fountain open to all. The most informed passers-by often stop to pay their respects. Sinan's achievements have left their mark on people's minds, and he is still admired today.
Aradığınız kitap burada.
Selâtin is in fact one of his greatest admirers. This architect is passionate about the work of his predecessor.
Tezkiret ul Bunyan is a unique work on Ottoman architecture. Written in the 16th century, it's an unprecedented book since we don't have a second source that gives us so much architectural detail and information about Sinan's experiences during the construction. The most important details of 16th century architecture can be seen in this work. Sinan worked with the most important craftsmen of his time on this monument. He tried to reach the highest point of perfectionism in the architectural aspect, in the decoration of its cupola. He worked with Karachi Salih, who was the most important artist at the time. For each detail, he put the best workers and artists to work on the construction of this building.
Sonai Sakar also studied Sinan's genius. As the architect in charge of historical monuments, she knows the most secret places of Süleymaniye. This space, forbidden to the public, was designed by Sinan to suck out the soot produced by the hundreds of candles that lit the mosque at the time, and thus avoiding getting the walls or draperies dirty. But that black soot was then collected and reused.
Soot from the candles was scraped off the wall, collected in boxes and mixed with water and spices to make ink. This ink was then attached to the necks of camels that left for Mecca or Medina, the sacred land. Shaken during the outward and return journey, this ink finally obtained the right consistency. Then it was used to write the Qurans or for calligraphy.
Calligraphy, an ancient Islamic art which is still practiced today thanks to teachings such as those given in this small school on the banks of the Süleymaniye.
Calligraphy is the most beautiful way to transmit your feelings. It's a bit like a wonderful trip. This allows me to get closer to the Creator, because when I write, when ink soaks the paper, I feel as serene as when I pray.
Süleymaniye İslam sanatı açısından çok değerli bir mekan.
The Suleymaniye is a very important place for the arts of Islam, and calligraphy in particular. Calligraphy is at the same time a letter, a message, a decorative art, a painting.
Human and animal representations are forbidden in Islam. Therefore, calligraphy occupies a central place in the decoration of mosques. Allah's face cannot be shown, It is by the writing of his name that he is present everywhere. Decorative, calligraphy is above all a means of transmitting the Quran, of recalling the text revealed to Muhammad the Prophet. Omnipresent inside, it also decorates the exteriors. And around the mosque, other centuries-old traditions are taught to the younger generations. This is the case of an ancestral expression of spirituality. The ceremonies practiced by whirling, so-called in reference to the specific ritual of spinning, they belong to a Sufi Muslim order born in Turkey in the 13th century. Sufism is the mystical branch of Islam. Two young novices learn body positions, gestures, and breathing.
Kol açmada da yine aynı bu duruşumuzla başlamıştık. Şöyle göğsümüzü
You exhale slowly,
doğru dikey çizgiyle gelip
relax,
göbeğin oradan tekrar yukarı bir suyun
then
yukarı-
inhale
yukarı
and
fışkırması
swell the
için.
lungs.
Ayak hareketleri bittikten sonra kol açmak için de
The palm of the right hand to heaven to obtain God's grace,
Allah.
and the left hand to the ground to spread it.
Eyvallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن
Reciting the Quran, repeating God's name, and turning again and again up to a form of ecstasy.
إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر الله أكبر صدق الله العظيم.
While the teachings continue throughout the afternoon, visitors come and go around the mosque. It's a time for family strolls. And soon, tea time, a must in Turkish culture. The Süleymaniye Hamam is also part of the Kulliye, the large complex around the mosque. Architect Selâtin recalls that this tradition of purification was already central in the 16th century.
Bu Süleymaniye Hamamı da Süleymaniye Camii.
This hammam of the Suleymaniye is one of the first parts made during the construction of the mosque.
İnşaatı yapan kalfalar ve inşaat işçilerinin.
It was built first so that companions and workers could wash and purify themselves.
Öncelikli olarak inşa edilmiştir. Sadece abdest alma
It's not only for ablutions, it's a place where people meet.
bu çevredeki zengin insanların kendi
Even if the rich of the district had their hammam in their own homes,
anlamda bir birlikte
the hammams were used as spaces of sociability in Ottoman times in order to have a cultural cohesion.
Osmanlı döneminde.
Born from the mixture between the Ottoman, Roman, and Byzantine traditions, the so-called Turkish bath has been used since antiquity. A true place of peace and comfort, the hammam, just like the mosque, abolishes social classes and age differences. Like every day, for more than 4 centuries at the Süleymaniye, a day has passed to the rhythm of the 5 daily prayers. But more than a strictly religious building, the mosque has become an essential historical monument, an emblem of Ottoman architectural identity, and a unique showcase of Islamic art.